So before I introduce the product itself, the RIO D, or RIO DALI, I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes just talking about the markets that Pharos develops products for. So Pharos products are designed for the installation market, where equipment is installed and is then expected to operate reliably every day. A single control system will probably be controlling several separate areas, all acting independently from each other. But then at certain times, under certain circumstances, decisions about what happens next need to be made by the system as a whole. Pharos has solved this problem by creating a range of controllers that can tackle any size of installation, starting from a single room with maybe just a couple of LED fixtures and some dimmers, right up to large-scale landmark installations like the Vegas Mall in Moscow, which requires 333,000 channels of real-time DMX control. And any combination of our controllers can operate together over an Ethernet network, so they communicate with each other, and this allows a distributed system to act as one if required. The other requirement of the installation market is integration with third-party systems, such as building management systems or HVAC, window blinds, and also to get feedback from sensors like weather sensors or light sensors. But often the system you want to integrate with is situated remotely from your control system. So the challenge is how to communicate with this remote system. As I've already mentioned, Pharos controllers sit on an Ethernet network, so what better way to do this integration than over IP? So a few years ago we started making RIOs, or remote input-output devices, and these communicate over Ethernet, they're power over Ethernet, so they're really simple to install. They just require one cable, and the only hard configuration you have to do on the device is to set the address wheel. Have a couple of RIOs situated around the wall here, and there's a couple more down there. So nice, small, compact, easy to install next to the third-party system, and very little configuration. And all these elements, third-party systems talking to each other, we believe this is an essential way of working to make the best use of resources and ultimately help the environment. So just the DALI protocol, I'm just going to talk a bit about that in case you're not familiar with it. It's a lighting control protocol, just like DMX, except it was designed for a very different application. So DMX is spitting out 40 channels a second for rock and roll and theatre. DALI, very simple. Controllers, very simple. They're just sending instructions when something needs to change. So they talk directly to the ballast, and the topology of the wiring is completely free. So DMX, you need to do daisy chains. DALI, very simple for electricians to install. Just go around your office block and plug in wherever you like. But what's not simple about DALI is making the leap onto an Ethernet backbone, or getting up to a large size of installation, or any sort of advanced control. DALI controllers are mainly just little wall panels with buttons. They don't have conditional logic. They can't take in feedback from other systems. Until now. So we've developed the RIO D, or D for DALI. Just going to pass that around so you can have a look. Each RIO D can control up to 64 DALI ballasts, so that's the maximum number of ballasts you can have on a DALI bus, same concept as DMX Universe. And it also can operate, as well as in the master mode for control, it can also operate in a slave mode to allow it to listen to existing DALI controllers. And this is great if you want to retrofit a moving light or LED feature onto an existing DALI installation and have the existing DALI controller trigger that. The RIO D is compatible with all our lighting controllers, the LPC 1, 2 and 4. The LPC is this one here, LPC 1, 2 and 4, where the number is the number of DMX universes. They can each handle up to 16 RIO Ds, and the LPCX down here can handle up to 100 RIO Ds, so that's 6,400 ballasts. The operation mode, master or slave, is configured in software, along with group setup, scene setup, timeline programming and the patch, and also interrogating the ballasts over the bus, a bit like RDM, to find out what's out there and what the addresses are. So that's 6,400 ballasts, one centralized control system working over Ethernet, timeline programming, plus the conditional logic system that we've had in our controllers for years, but applied to DALI. For DMX, this is old school, but for DALI, it's I mean, we think it's tantamount to a revolution in the control options that are being offered for that protocol. And plus you get all the other advanced features of our controllers. And just to reiterate, it's a power over Ethernet device, so it just requires one Cat5 cable to install, and you just set the address wheel, and everything else is done in software, completely flexible. So that's the end of my presentation on the RIO D. Do you have any questions?
Tell me again how this interfaces with that. How many can you control, and how many ballasts that can control?
Each one of those can control 64 ballasts, and one of these lighter controllers, so we make a 1 universe, 2 universe, and 4 universe variant of that. They can support up to 16 RIO Ds, so 16 times 64, 16 of them, and the LPCX can support 100 of them. So that's where I get the 6400 ballasts. But of course, you can position them anywhere on a network. So the LPCX could be here, the RIO D could be the other end of Earl's Court, and I could be controlling DALI over there from here, which we don't believe has been possible before. It's the list price is $695. Yeah, pounds, yes, sorry. Yeah. Any other questions?
Does the system discover the DALI devices?
Absolutely, yes.
Right.
In the designer software, you can see what's online. Ultimately, what matters, because the PC isn't involved in actually controlling the installation. When you've uploaded your show to the LPC, then the LPC will discover the RIO Ds online, and it knows which RIO Ds it's expecting to find because of your show file, and then it will configure it to say, okay, you're a slave, you're listening for these triggers from that controller, you're a master, and then every now and again it will say to that master, you need to send a signal to these ballasts.
And in the LPC software, you've got a page for setting stuff up in groups and stuff like that.
Yes, indeed, and in fact, our software as well is another feature which is innovative in the DALI world. That's based on our feedback from our customers. We understand that our configuration tools are really, right up there at the top of the market for what's possible.
Configuration of DALI.
Well, this is what we've discovered. So we feel our software tools are really up to scratch there.
So if you had to write new pages for the LPC for that,
we've actually had a DALI tab in Designer for a while, because the original LPC hardware had a DALI M module, but it had to be connected to the expansion bus of the controller. Whereas under the revised hardware, we've got rid of the expansion bus and made everything on Ethernet, which is so much more flexible.
What's this for?
That's to set the address. So you can manually address up to 15. So that's great for the ones going off the LPCs. If you've got a small install, you'd only have 15 units. But when you go above 15, you set it to the M, the manual setting, and then in software you pick the serial number as discovered on the bus.